White people did what?
And it is true. The reason we don't have a lot of Egyptian mummies is because white people ate them. And it wasn't just one or two, they ate them by the hundreds and almost to extinction. It was during the Victorian era. And if you know anything about the Victorian era, it was a long time after Egypt was already well established. And if you know anything about Egypt, it is a very complex civilization. That's where we had the hieroglyphs. That's where we had large towering statues and figurines that one's mind simply just could not comprehend on how it was created. It was very advanced, way more advanced than the Victorian people during the Victorian era in England. The thing about this was the reason they ate these mummies, and the reason that I guess it still kind of remains today, the reason that they eat these black people is because they want to embody that progression. They wanted to advance, progress their civilization. And during the
It's absolutely mental, the amount of shit that is all over the internet about white people. Oh, white people colonized. Oh, white people stole. Oh, white people did this. Oh, white people did that. Oh, and now you've ate the mummies because you want to take the power. I mean, Egyptians weren't even black. So I don't even know how the hell she came about with this whole heap of nonsense, but it must really suck to be white in this day and age, because everyone is accusing white people of doing every single thing in this world. Like they're all innocent, no one's ever done anything bad. Only the white people came in and took over and did all this evil. How ludicrous and pathetic and very ill-mannered, may I say. Very ill-mannered.
So did y'all know that Europeans ate Egyptian mummies for over 700 years? And yet, when we talk about cannibalism in history, it's only ever brought up to demonize societies from Africa, Asia, or the Americas. But today, we're talking about European cannibals. So just a few days ago, I got to visit the tomb of King Tut in the Valley of the Kings at Luxor in Egypt. Now, hundreds of thousands of people and animals were mummified throughout the time of ancient Egypt. Yet today, tombs across the country are empty, partially because of a disturbing trend from medieval Europe of literally consuming the dead bodies of Egyptians. Now, before I get into this story, I'm excited to announce that this is just the part 1 to a video series I'm making about race and colonialism as it relates to ancient Egypt. Let me know in the comments if this sounds like an interesting topic to you, and make sure you follow so you don't miss out on future episodes. Now, the idea for eating mummies came from a mistranslation where medieval translators confused the Arabic word mumia, which was a wax-like substance from Persia, with a similar looking resin that ancient Egyptians used to preserve their dead. And this confusion is how we even got the term mummies. This mistranslation convinced Europeans that ground up Egyptian corpses were a miracle medicine. And it kicked off a 700-year campaign of merchants sending boatloads of bodies to European apothecaries. By the 16th century, King Francis I carried personal mummy powder, and King Charles II is said to have his signature King's Drops made of powdered portions of human skulls. The 1618 London Pharmacopoeia even listed mummies as an essential medicine. But when these ancient mummies started to run out, merchants in Alexandria began manufacturing fresh ones. They purchased the corpses of executed criminals, plague victims, and enslaved people. Then they would dry them out in the sun to pass them off as ancient Egyptian royalty. Over time, the usage of and fascination with mummies only increased. Victorian elites threw mummy parties where they would watch these thousands-year-old bodies be unwrapped. European painters ground these remains into mummy brown paint, and as late as 1908, German catalogs advertised these made with genuine Egyptian mummies. Now, it's important to remember that every single mummy carried a wealth of information about the society and time period that they lived in. So who knows how much history was lost because Europeans decided to steal and eat so many of them. And as I said at the beginning of this video, it's also very important to remember that throughout this time, Europeans were using accusations of cannibalism to justify colonization. Columbus originally described native peoples as peaceful and friendly, but when he needed more slaves, all of a sudden so many of them became cannibals. And for context, the Spanish royalty specifically said that indigenous peoples must be treated with respect, unless of course they were cannibals, in which case all bets were off. A French philosopher named Michel de Montaigne even called this dynamic out when he wrote an essay comparing Brazilian tribes who ceremoniously consumed their dead enemies to Europeans, and said that Europeans were way worse. He pointed out that while Europeans were horrified by the alleged ritualistic cannibalism in the Americas, they were metaphorically eating men alive through torture, tearing people limb from limb by racks and torments, and allowing people to be bitten and infected by dogs and swine during religious wars. And this is on top of them literally eating mummies, as I've described. So the next time you hear someone say that colonization was justified because Europeans brought civilization to cannibalistic peoples, remind them that for centuries, Europeans, Christian, educated, and otherwise, had their own thriving cannibal economy, while of course insisting to this day that they were the moral standard. But obviously the issue for them isn't who really practiced cannibalism, it's that when certain people did it, they saw it as medical advancement, and when others did it, it was seen as barbaric savagery worthy of genocide and enslavement. But that's
So, guys, we're looking at the past of the Europeans that people don't like talking about, that actually the white Europe was actually involved in cannibalism. And I think this is some interesting fact. In the video we shared earlier, you saw the white lady who claimed that Europeans or white people didn't do such things, but she was speaking from obviously a place of ignorance. All credit to the original content creators. Videos were shared today. If you're a new subscriber, you're welcome to my YouTube channel. Please do hit the notification, hit the subscription button, so that when we bring up new updates, you'll be the first to be notified. So we'll be examining these videos because they really caught my interest on TikTok, and it tells us how much of progression we have made as a people, not just white people also, but every tribe at a certain time had engaged in some form of cannibalism. And it was quite wrong that the colonizers, when they came to Africa, labeled everyone a cannibal while they were actually getting it in Europe. That's what.
Did you know that Egyptian mummies are rare because from the 12th to 19th century, Europeans literally ate them? Yes. Europeans ate mummies. For nearly 600 years, people consumed ground-up mummy powder as medicine. Apothecaries sold it everywhere from Paris to London as a cure for headaches, stomach problems, and even the plague. This wasn't unusual either, it was actually mainstream medicine. The belief started with a mix-up. In the Middle East, mumia was a natural tar-like substance called bitumen that was used medicinally. Europeans misunderstood the word and assumed it meant embalmed Egyptian mummies. So when traders brought back mummies from Egypt, Europeans thought they had found the ultimate miracle cure. The demand was enormous that by the 1500s, so many people wanted mummy powder that traders began grinding up freshly buried bodies and selling them as the real thing. Even counterfeit mummies were a booming business. This practice even made its way to royalty when Charles II of England famously consumed a drink called the King's Drops, made from powdered human skull, believing it gave him vitality and strength. By the 18th century, doctors realized it was quackery. Forgeries were rampant, and governments began restricting the mummy trade. But for centuries, Europeans believed eating the dead could save their lives. Let me know what you think about this one.
White slave owners used to eat slaves. So in this book right here, The Detectable Negro by Vincent Woodard, it states the testimony of people, slaves, okay, that seen it occur. I'm just gonna read the description of the book so y'all know. The book explores the homoerotism of both literal and figurative acts of human cannibalism that occurred during slavery in the United States. Okay? So y'all, before y'all come and say, no, it did not happen, I'm gonna ask you to go purchase the book or find PDF files that have the book and read it. Also, those are furnitures that were made with black people's skin. So before y'all come and say, well, slavery was not that bad, like, do your research properly, honestly, because it was that bad.
Why do Egyptian mummies so rare? There were millions bodies of ancient Egyptians mummified over thousands of years, but the Victorian British ate almost all of them. In the 19th century, Mummies were sometimes used in various ways in Europe, including in medicine and art. One source of the myth is the practice of mumia, a substance that was thought to have medicinal properties. This was originally made from bitumen, a type of tar, but as the supply dwindled, people started using ground-up remains of mummies, which were believed to have similar healing powers. This led to a brief period where mummy powder was sold as medicine. However, it was mainly used by apothecaries and was not a widespread dietary practice. Additionally, during the 19th century, the fascination with Egypt led to mummy unwrapping parties, where wealthy Europeans would purchase mummies, unwrap them for entertainment, and display them in their homes. Some people did claim that small bits of mummies were consumed at these events.
You probably thought that the discovery of a tomb is a rare event. Well, no. The reason why we don't have any tombs is because in the 16th and 1700s, the Europeans was consuming mummies at a massive rate. They were used for medicine, they were crushed up, and they were also used for paintings, like this one right here, and the color was Egyptian brown. Now, mummies was used, crushed up, to make paintings like this until the 1960s. Mummies were also used and destroyed for mummy parties. So this went on during the Victorian period, okay? So these unwrapping parties was just like an Avon party or a Mary Kay party, where they would take the mummy and they would literally have a party unwrapping them. Now, consuming a mummy was thought to heal everything from headaches, epilepsy. Even King Charles II had king drops, is what he called it. This was a drink that contained human skull with alcohol. So you got to understand, in the 16th and 1700s, you can go to your local CVS of that time and get your Egyptian Kemet bits over the counter. Understand, we lost a lot of mummies during that time. A lot. That's a span over 1,000 years. Now, the only reason why we have famous mummies preserved like King Tut, it was very carefully hidden away in secret tombs. Now, this is a part of African history that we'll never get back. So just know that the main reason why we don't have any major tomb discoveries in ancient Kemet, present day Egypt, is because during the 16th and 1700s, they were consumed by the Europeans.
Our leaders, our ancestors who fought the wars of resistance, their heads, their remains are sitting in jars throughout Europe.
She is not lying. I'm going to give y'all a little history lesson. Now, for my protection, this video is for educational purposes. Everything in this video is fake. Everything I said is not real, and I think I'm forgetting something, but whatever. And I know some of y'all probably might be thinking, you're trying to make us look bad? No, this is history. Take it how you want it. Now, let me give y'all an example of what she's talking about. Cue the video.
British royal family rejects calls to return kidnapped Ethiopian prince body back home. Buckingham Palace has declined an official request to return the remains of an Ethiopian prince who they kidnapped, then held hostage for several years, and then unceremoniously buried in a British catacomb in the 19th century.
Viewer discretion is strongly advised in this video because this is about to get a little gory. Now, their made up reason why they're not going to give his body back, they're saying that it's going to disturb the resting places of others in the vicinity. Now, in the comments, people are talking about they have the remains of warriors who held off colonization too. Did you know that the Europeans used to actually eat mummies? They would also powder the remains and put it in paintings, like actually paint with the powder. Now, you may be wondering, why would they eat mummies? And how does this connect to them keeping our ancestors' remains? Not to mention that they would use it to heal their bodies. Now, the reason why they were using human remains, and you know who remains they were using, they believed that it contained the spirit of the body that they were taken from. That's why the blood is especially powerful. They believed that eating the person was consuming their essence. Wow! Rich Europeans thought that they could heal themselves by eating corpses. So you're telling me that these rich, upper class, elite Europeans, they believed that they could get some type of power by consuming people. Now let me just point out that the British Museum has over 6,000 human remains. Now, not to mention some of these wealthy families, and we already know where the wealth came from. Now, just like, certain Europeans like to hang animals' remains on the walls and hunt them for sport and do all that extra stuff, make belts out of their skin, they used to do that to slaves. Now, there used to be like a secret black market, and that they used to hand down the remains of our ancestors. They would make purses, shoes, all of that from skin. Use the grease of boiled flesh as oil, and these were souvenirs passed down through generations. After 200 years, in 2016, they finally returned the head, the skull of Nat Turner to their original family. They were passing the remains of the leader of a slave rebellion down through their generations. So where do you think the white European Americans got the information and these habits from? The Europeans. So why wouldn't you believe that they have our ancestors in jars in the Vatican, somewhere in the British Museum, somewhere in Europe? Come on now. This is all I'm gonna leave y'all with. Y'all stay dangerous.
It's all allegedly, but there are books and histories that have to say this, and purely this is for educational purposes. So I want to know what your thoughts, your opinions are in the comment section. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you. You're the reason why we do what we do. If you're new subscriber, please hit the notification button so you'll be notified anytime we make new and exciting content. See you on my next video.